The following episode might contain content that you might not be comfortable listening to. This might range from swearing to references to self-harm and substance abuse. Please proceed with caution and don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it. Do you ever feel like what you do isn't enough? Do you feel like some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, someone could do maybe even better? Hello, my name is Hazy, Who Killed Hazy, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Only Rainy Days podcast. And I think tonight I want to switch it up a little bit. Or today, to evening, to afternoon. No clue when you might hear this, but love you. You look nice today. You always look nice, and thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being here. As always want to make sure I want to always share some positivity. So I think it's always good to throw it out in the air, especially because it's always true. But tonight to evening to morning, whatever it might be, I want to take a shift from, I guess, what's been the last two episodes, which in terms of when they released, I guess the last month or so, something like that. I want to take a little bit of a shift from what I've been talking about lately. In between, just I don't want it to always be like super down, and on top of that, at the date of recording, it's November 2nd, which I'm really happy with myself for once here, because that means I'm doing something right. I'm actually recording ahead of time and things like that. But if we haven't entered it already, we're entering a very peculiar moment in time here, which is seasonal depression. Around this time, the colder it gets, the worse it gets for some people mentally, myself included. I've been feeling it for the last 2 weeks already, which I think might be slightly evident based on some of the things I was talking about lately. I wanted to break it up a little bit. This has been some of my thoughts lately, some for myself, some things I've been thinking about while I've been talking to my friends and the people around me. I think this is some of the things I want to say here will be very important, both for, again, myself and for anyone else, because it's good to have a full grip on reality. And at times, especially during this time, in the calendar year, sometimes you just end up forgetting about these type of things. You start to it takes a secondary seat in your brain, and then as a result, you just kind of, I guess, lose out. I guess that's a way to put it. Let's just dive straight into it, though. I didn't really sit here and try to think about a nice way to really, I guess, dive into the topic anywhere better. Decided to just kind of, I knew what I wanted to talk about. Got my little funny sticky note, because I'm tired of one-liners and purely titles to know what I'm going on about here. But for now, we're going to talk about downplaying your worth, because I realized that not only is this something that I do, something I'm victim to a lot of times in my life, not even damn near every single day, but I realized this is something that a lot of the people around me end up doing a lot. And it happens when, depression, anxiety starts to hit, when shit starts to get rough, when life starts to life, quote unquote, as I like to put it, or I want to put it, to try to laugh off the fact that it's still not the happiest topic in the world, but it deserves its own space in the spotlight to be focused on, because I think everyone, unfortunately, I think everyone does have moments in their life where they're just gonna sit there and they start to tell themselves that they aren't really how they see themselves, or they aren't how other people see them, or something along that lines. We try to not seem like who we are. We're afraid of it, or we're afraid of what comes from it. First thing I have written down is accomplishments are accomplishments, because it's real. It's real. Um, I always think about my friends when I talk about this shit. If it's not me, I think about my friends, and this one definitely fits into both categories. But I always see like this pattern of people deciding like you can compliment someone or they can do something, and you can say something along the lines of, "Oh wow, like holy, like you did fucking well there. That's amazing. Good job. I'm proud of you." And they'll like immediately try to jump into something else. It seems as if the compliment was completely deflected, which that's not an issue in itself. I mean, if you have nothing to really say to it, then go for it. You don't have to acknowledge someone acknowledging the fact that you did a good job. But the problem lies in the fact that I don't really feel like people really I feel as if people don't acknowledge the fact that they did a good job. They just kind of see the words, hear the words, they compare slash contrast it to something else, some level, some basis of acceptance that they have seen, that they want to see. And all the moments leading up to it just start to feel benign to them. I guess art will forever be my big thing, but if you're really big into art or something like that, you could get you can see some of your favorite artists. You can see some people coming up in the scene, getting recognized by all these big names. It's not like it really is too much of an accolade anymore, but you see you can see your favorite artist, post something, drop something, and they'll get like messages and likes and all that from verified profiles, people you might even recognize, other artists in the scene, things like that. And you'll just start to eternalize it. You're just like, that's what I want. And you set a goal for yourself. And that's good. You have a goal for yourself. You know what you want. You want X person to recognize you, or you want X amount of people to recognize you. Then you start to do your own thing. This one thing that you're passionate about. This one thing that you care about. This one thing that you should pursue simply because you want to pursue it, not because you're only interested in who sees it or how many people see it. But you're in the infancy stages of things, and it doesn't just work out perfectly immediately. So as a result, you don't get exactly what you're looking for. You get a version of it, but you don't get exactly what you're looking for. And people start to doubt themselves. They start to downplay. They start to just believe that they're not who they are, who they're meant to be, who they will become, because the results aren't immediate. I guess it's a good way to put it. Because I think when you get into something, you always know you have an idea of what you want to see at the end of it all. Oh, I started up this one thing. I'm looking for this. And then, if you don't get it immediately, it's just like, I must have fucked up, and I didn't get exactly what I wanted. Therefore, this isn't for me, or this wasn't as good as a job. Use this as a random example. I don't know where this really comes from in my brain, but let's just say that you're getting into like sewing and all that. You start to learn how to do patchwork, and you start to make yourself a nice patchwork jacket, and you wear it outside. And in your head, you tell yourself, "Oh, you can." People do this, and again, loose example, but people will do this thing where it's just like, my accomplishments are only worth as much as people notice them. It doesn't matter if it's, well constructed, done well, there's a good amount of pre-planning into it, or at the very least, the execution of said idea came out perfectly. It seems like people sometimes only get lost in, well, what do people really think about my work here? I did this thing, but how do you feel about it? And then they'll judge. They will hold what they've completed, what they've done, only to the standards of others, not themselves. Maybe not even themselves at all. They're not even a figure in this little puzzle that we call, like, our heads, as we try to move through this weird, odd maze called life. And I just really wanted to make sure that it's just like kind of known that accomplishments are accomplishments. It doesn't matter how quote unquote big or quote unquote small they are. If you've done something, you did it. And that's it. That's all. And the book should be closed right then and there, because people get stuck in this like weird, odd game of comparison. You always end up wondering, like, okay, I did this, but this person did that, or this person did this, but the other person did that. And then you start to confine, if not yourself, but others into the box, inside the sphere, inside the zone of others. Your accomplishments are no longer measured by, am I impressed or not? It's just, is everyone impressed? Like, what is the mass consensus? I don't want to say this simply because I'm not thinking fast enough to really say this, to be honest, but it's almost as if people, I forgot it. Opinions don't matter unless someone else really shares it. I feel like people are starting to get stuck into that mindset, and they really start to hold it to themselves as well. So your good job doesn't matter unless someone's seen it. To go back to the old example, you can make yourself a nice patchwork jacket. If you don't get compliments everywhere you go on the street of, people asking, oh, who made the jacket? Or where'd you buy it from? And like, where can I get it? Or can you make one for me? If you don't get those compliments, sometimes people will just think to themselves that, I guess what I did isn't good enough then, because I just want people to see it. And you didn't even take time to realize that what you did is good. It's good in itself. You didn't need other people to necessarily validate, quote unquote, the work that you've done. You see it for yourself. And that's the most important part. People always want eyes on them. People always want others to tell them that they did a good job. And then on top of that, you can be told that you did a good job, but people still just find a hard time accepting the fact that they did a good job. And I myself am definitely victim to the second part. Maybe the first as well, but I know I have a very hard time with sitting there and just allowing someone to tell me that, like, oh, that was pretty cool, that was pretty nice, and I'm not sure where it comes from. If I take a guess off the top of my head, I guess it's because I always have these, like, I guess it's a portion of the first part. I have these grandiose ideas of like what I want to see with anything that I do, and I guess expectations, wants, needs, all that. And it's like, if I don't have every single part of it, then it just doesn't matter. But even then, there'll be certain things that I can be slightly like complacent, slightly even happy with something, and then someone tells me it was good, and immediately I try to like downplay. I try to like run away from it and just be like, no. Don't say something nice about me. Let's say something nice about you, or don't say something nice about me. It's not even as good. Like, trying to hide the fact that, you put 1,000+ hours into this type of thing, this type of line of work, your craft, everything that went up into this point where someone else can even recognize that you did well. If not the fact that you can look back on it yourself and realize that you did well. It's as if people kind of run away from it. And from what I understand, the reasons why people run away from compliments and self-compliments is I guess, convoluted. It seems to always be a different reason each and every time, but it's not healthy. It's healthy to criticize yourself and to receive criticism. You shouldn't put yourself on this golden, untouchable pedestal. That's not real necessarily. Excuse me. It's good to strive for change. It's good to strive for improvement. So remembering that you can always move up is good, but finding that balance in between knowing that you can do better and being happy with what you've done so far. It seems like people always choose one or the other. Some people get very comfortable with what they make and what they do, and they never change, and it starts to hurt them. On the other hand, some people will forever strive for something better, something more, and refuse to take the time to look back and realize that they have been doing well. They know what they can do better, but they won't just sit there and say that previous attempt was amazing in itself. And without that balance, it starts to hurt you. But that's kind of life in itself as well. The more you try to disobey the natural balance of everything, the more you're bound to get hurt, to be completely honest. You can't sit at the top forever, but dwelling at the bottom is gonna be just as painful, basically. A different type of pain, but painful nonetheless. It's gonna always be something. And with that train of thought of trying to not be stuck at the bottom, not be stuck at the top, I guess this next point will be more so towards the people who feel as if they're stuck at the bottom. Because, sometimes it gets rough. Sometimes it's hard to think the best things about yourself and your life and the things that you have accomplished, and to feel confident that you will achieve the things you want to achieve in the future. It's not It's not always perfect. It's not always perfect. Sometimes things will just go a different way, or sometimes you can't. Sometimes what you predicted isn't what actually happened for whatever reason. But it's always important to kind of you gotta talk well to yourself. You gotta talk nicely to yourself. You have to be your biggest supporter. That's what I want to get into. You have to be your biggest supporter, and it's not purely because of this massive, semi-scary idea of the fact that everyone can leave, and you gotta do what's right just for yourself and your health and your mental health. But it's around that idea, but not exactly on that needle. You should be your own supporter, because you are going to be the person that sees it all, that feels it all. You will experience everything that you do. So you should be your own greatest supporter. You should be the one that talks well to yourself, and every single part of it matters. Every single minute detail of how you talk to yourself is very important. All right. Again, you don't have to hype yourself up to the gods. You really should not aim to put yourself on a godlike pedestal and try to be this megalomaniac person, not only to yourself, but everyone around you. But you shouldn't feel forced to be this ball of darkness either. In fact, just sitting around, shitting on yourself, tearing yourself apart, that's not really going to get you anywhere. You're going to feel bad, terrible, cold, and alone. Shitting on yourself will make it harder to connect with people, to do more creatively. In a broad sense, some people really strive off those negative emotions, and those people who strive off of it are the ones who are able to, well, that's redundant. People who strive are the ones who are able to convert it. But, in a general sense, the more creative types are able to put their pain into art, because art is a form of expression. But, if you're just sitting there frustrated at a non-creative position, there's not too much to do there. Not in that one-to-one comparison, but overall, you just lose more. You just lose more when you sit there and you tell yourself that, you tell yourself all those horrible things that you probably wouldn't say to someone else, especially if you showed them something. You wouldn't sit there and tell someone that, you're useless. What you're doing isn't that good and you have no hope of doing any better with it. Why are you wasting your time here? You should be doing this, or I don't care what you do. You should be doing anything but, because clearly this doesn't work for you. If you want to tell that to the average person, or tell that to even a friend, why do you tell yourself that? Why are you not your greatest friend? Why are you able to sit there and tell yourself that you are nothing and you will never be nothing, or you are nothing, you will never be anything? All your efforts are futile. But if any of your friends said that to you, you'd blow a fuse and you'd be afraid and you would beg and plead them to say otherwise. You have to be nice to yourself, and not just being nice to yourself. Give yourself your criticism and say, I did well here. This part was pretty shit, but overall I did well. But every single part of it matters. And I mentioned every single part because the semantics matter as well. There's a lot of differences that can be understood just by tweaking one word, or tweaking one word, adding one word, doing anything to make it like abundantly clear that, hey, maybe I shouldn't shit on myself so much. And one of my favorite things, thank God it finally came to mind, one of my favorite things I love to tell myself and to tell others to tell themselves, especially when it comes to down themselves, is adding the words "not yet" when it comes to referring to or talking about something that you can't do. You can't do it yet, because the way you talk to yourself dictates how you feel about something and how you carry yourself moving forward. So let's just say that I wanted to get into music. Specifically, I wanted to produce music. And I tell myself, right, my goal is to be a music producer. It makes no sense to tell someone I want to be a music producer and then purely only say, not just to them, but to myself, I don't know how to produce music. Add the words "not yet," because it reminds yourself subconsciously, deep down, that you do have that time. You do have the time to learn, and it will take time. But if you just tell yourself, oh, I want to produce music, but I can't, you fuck yourself. You fuck yourself right there. You shot yourself in the toe, and congratulations, you're not going to walk that fast. But if I say, I want to produce music, but I don't know how to produce just yet. Right now, I don't. Right now, I don't know how to produce music. Right now, I'm confused. Right now, I don't even play an instrument. I want to learn guitar in the future. You tell yourself these words because a part of it will be self-admission, and that's okay. Like, if I wanted to produce music personally, I don't know how to produce. I don't know how to play an instrument. But I'm not producing because I don't know how to produce yet. If I wanted to, I can learn. I can sit there and I could I'll put my hours in. But there's always going to be this big difference between what you tell yourself you can and cannot do and what you tell yourself you can and cannot do at the moment. Remind yourself at every single point. Give yourself that slack, that breathing room that you need. That way you can move forward into the future at full speed. Because if you shut yourself down and your internal monologue, the things you tell yourself, then what chance does anyone else have in telling you otherwise? And what chance do you have in breaking that cycle? Give yourself that breathing room. Remember, it's just deep breath. It's just one step at a time. That's all that matters. It's all one step at a time. Excuse me. But yeah, everything's not a race. Everything's not a race. And that's the two previous points. I think is where people really start to fall. They start to fall deep into their thoughts and start to wonder where things went, quote unquote, wrong. Everyone has these expectations, these goals, the things they want to see in life. And if you do it right, you have a deadline in sight in your head about when you should see a certain type of goal, milestone, individual, location, whatever. You know, I know people who would talk about wanting to visit Italy before they hit the age of 23, which is, I think is fine. But travel and all that isn't really the focus here, so don't get lost in it. But just remembering that whenever you do something in life, it's not about how fast you really can do it or anything like that. It doesn't matter how fast you can do it, how fast you rise to the ranks of doing something, whatever. Being secure in it, being consistent is something that will take you just as far, if not even farther. All right. It takes time at times to see the results that you want to see. And it's not to say that the results will never show itself if you just, tell yourself that it will be okay. It will not just automatically show up, nor will it won't not. I confused myself. I don't know. I actually just confused myself so hard. That's insane. It takes time at times. Realize and accept the fact that some of the things that you want to see in life will take longer than expected. Whether that the expectation is based in what you've seen in others or what you want for yourself. Realize that sometimes you have to be patient. You have to wait. And you have to put the hours in as well. The consistency is what truly separates the successful from the not successful in life. How many times are you willing to fail? How many times are you willing to try? How much doubt from either yourself or others are you willing to put up with because you truly believe in this? And I mean that entire statement, because you can doubt yourself and yet still truly believe in what you do. The doubt is somewhere more shrouded in the idea of, well, I know this more, or this would probably just go better. You have your own 1,001 systems on why you believe you might want to do X instead of Y. But just because you have these ideas doesn't mean it should always be followed and capitalized on, because the moment you start anything up, you can have a rogue idea of, I should quit this. I don't want to be a lumberjack or whatever. I want to do something else, or I don't enjoy this. And then you just listen to your head immediately and you just run off. Like, no. Everything that you do, especially creatively, people are only really good at what they do because they spent so much time with it. And I guess we can make that a little bit of a challenge. Go find someone that's good at something. Whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what that something is to you. It could be the person who has the longest speed run in Minecraft on purpose. That's cool. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want it, just kind of go for it, do it, and then never really back down off of said topic. Because the moment you give up on it is the moment that you get exactly what you're looking for, or what you told yourself you're looking for. The moment you quit, you get what you're looking for, because you can either try and get the chart in my head, because I remember creating like this mental chart about how either going for something or giving up on something really works. But if I can explain it to the best of my ability right now, if you go for something, you either you either win, right? If you go for something and you win, you get exactly what you were looking for. Like, congratulations. I was going after this girl. She said yes. Perfect. Now she's mine. If you go for the girl, you ask her out, she says no, you're devastated. And you tell yourself, I should have never done it because that was a terrible idea. And now I'm hurting. And, I'm hurting, I'm limping, I'm taking myself out of here because I can't, it hurts. But if you never tried to get with her in the first place, you would be in the same position, basically. You lose because you never had her. And it's the same idea with everything. If you have a goal, an idea in mind, you can shoot for it. If you shoot for it and you hit it, perfect. I got exactly what I wanted. I shot and I didn't hit. I didn't get what I was looking for. At least I shot and I learned something from it. And if you never do it and you back away from it, you learn nothing and you gain nothing. So it's always important to just kind of just go out there, but also remind yourself that not everything, kind of is accepted immediately, works out perfectly immediately. The internet, when it came out, when the internet was first developed, it took people several years to become okay with the idea that you need to buy this box that costs, insert amount of money here and allows you to connect to this thing called the internet where all information is just kind of stored here. People thought that was a crazy idea, a crazy stupid idea, and that, regular mail would serve its purpose in life way better than the email. Clearly, that didn't work. A lot of companies, had very odd beginnings. Some of them were humble, some of them weren't. Depends on the information that's aware and what company you think of. But, there's moments where there's companies that show up that have damn near miracle stories. I started in my basement and next thing you know, here I am. I saw a video of this shit earlier today, or I guess, quote unquote, earlier today, whatever. But there's this one artist. His name is JPEG Mafia. He talked about in this one video that he was making music. I can't remember if it was since he was 15 or for 15 years. For the sake of the conversation, 15 years. He made music for 15 years. Didn't see any numbers. I'm sure if you looked up JPEG Mafia, you might recognize his name, or you might recognize a song from him or an influence. I mean, someone was influenced by his sound, but he put in work. He put in work for 15 years. He's been able to see the payoff of it in the last 3 or 4. He put 10 years in with next to no result, and he just kept going for it. He kept doing it. Didn't matter how fast the success showed up or where it came from. His idea was just focus straight on success and nothing more. And I would imagine, to an extent, it's a success in his head as well. He started to make the music he wanted to make, the music that he wanted to see, to tell the stories he wanted to tell. And he stayed true to it, and he just kept going and kept going and kept going. Kanye is a very good example of this as well. As much as this might be a meme for the people who even recognize what it is, but Kanye talked about on an old song of his, and just in general, there's even video of it, I believe. But it's just video and things of Kanye making 3 beats a day for 3 summers. Kanye talked about how when the summertime came around, he would just lock himself in the room and try to make up 3 different beats. Make a beat, remake a beat that already exists. Didn't matter. He would sit there and he would just grind out those 3 hours every single time. Every single time he would just keep going for it, keep going for it, keep going for it, keep going for it. Kanye's story is very inspirational to me because there's so many people who clearly didn't even like they didn't see his vision. They didn't understand what he was going on about. They didn't think he could do what he talked about. And then he just kind of did the shit anyway. And it's clear now that, if you were to doubt it, someone else would just question you and just be like, well, where the hell are you getting this from? But because it's Kanye, people, or because it's a bigger figure, people just become hesitant to fully unleash it, to unleash their thoughts. But they will unleash it on themselves and the people around them. Put the hours in. Just put the hours in, man. Just put the hours in. I promise you'll be a better person for it. You'll feel stronger for it. You'll know more and you'll do better for it. And it's not just because cosmic luck or anything like that. You're doing better, you know better because you put those hours in. The more hours you put in, the more consistent you are with said hours. The more you learn, the more you know, the more you grow, the better you do. It's almost all coordinated. Because let me tell you, that comparison shit is bad. It's bad. It will drive you mad. You'll go insane. Let me back up, because all these things are correlated, but I don't want it to just be where I just kind of just nosedive straight into a topic and just, not trying to make it slightly cohesive. I want to make it slightly cohesive. So I guess I want to just focus on, I've talked about it before, but it's just like, I talked about it before earlier this episode. It's just like, don't focus on comparisons. Don't do any of that for any reason. All right. And fuck it. Like, we can just get as dark as it is, just so you understand that sometimes there's just nothing to do about it. And the comparison doesn't really get you anywhere. Because I can sit here and compare myself to one of my friends about a specific topic. Let's just go with chemistry. For whatever reason. All my friends could probably smoke me in chemistry. I could hold my weight in math. But like, what do any of the comparisons do? In the same way of knowing what I kind of want to do in life, which, if I was to say this, I guess more so as not a cop out necessarily, but to kind of recognize something that I've been interested in. Comparisons aren't good in the art field. Everyone expresses themselves differently. Everyone has a different methodology behind how they explain themselves, what they're explaining, everything like that. Comparisons are just always bad. I believe comparisons are always bad. People will try something new and get completely lump summed into something completely different. It doesn't matter. And there's so many terrible and weird and odd examples I can use here to fully express the idea that, people, excuse me, it's so late for me, but I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, people just kind of get lost in just what they see to the point where they have a hard time accepting anything else. I'm trying to think of like a nice example off the top of my head, and it's not working perfectly, but like, you can want to make music. I guess you can want to make music. You'll listen to music that's already released by your favorite artist, and then you'll start to get mad. Just like, you compare yourself to that artist. Someone else shows their music to you. You'll start to compare their music to this artist. Humans love patterns, and they always hide behind them. They always use it as baselines. That way they can understand just a little bit about what's going on. No, that does a little bit more harm than it does better. And sometimes it's funny, and you'll just like get a little bit out of it. But it's other times where people do damn near irreparable damage to themselves because they just see something and they want it so bad. They wish that it was them so bad that it starts to just eat them up and tear them apart and corrupt them from like the inner out, to the point where it can get drastic. I hope it never does, but it can be. People just start to give up on dreams simply just because the odds seem stacked, or they didn't get what they were looking for, or in some, I don't want to say worst case, but some scenarios, you can start to do something. You can do something for quite a while, and someone else will just go right past you as if you didn't even really exist. Just they wanted something and they got there faster, and it just creates this like aura of greed, not greed, but like jealousy, basically. Let's use music again, just to jump back into it. I guess David is the best way to say his name. D4VD. I think Dave is the best way. Romantic Homicide is probably a song that will sound slightly familiar there for you. But I remember like reading up on him, and he was talking about how he started to make music for him. He started to make music just so he had songs to play during Fortnite montages. And I mean, with everything I was saying earlier today or tonight, there's a lot of things that can be said, because I don't know. If one of my friends was making music on his own just so he had more music that wasn't copyrightable for Fortnite, I respect it. I would honestly respect the shit, because that's a level of dedication that's just like, damn, you really went through with that. Like, that's insane. Like, that's kind of amazing. I didn't really expect you to do that. On the other hand, did I just confuse myself again? I just confused myself again. It's getting bad. It's getting bad. Yeah, okay, David made music for Fortnite, just made the music, and he goes for it, right? On one hand, amazing for him, beautiful for him, for the fact that he made music for one purpose and he kind of just blew up and was able. Now he's just to the point where he can make music on his own. But if you were to be making music, you could have been in the music game for 2-3 years, and you see some steady growth. You're making changes. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and then you just kind of see this one dude that, he's making music for Fortnite edits. You can put all the stigmas you want on it or not, and all of a sudden he's like this big artist. And I mean, I want to see if I can. I don't think I can get the numbers immediately straight right now, but David put some numbers. He put some numbers, and he blew up pretty fucking hard out of nowhere. And someone who's been making music for 2-3 years, immediately might just be like, well, how, excuse my language here, but how the fuck does he get to blow up and I don't? And, you start to just compare everything. It's just like, well, you just start to feel less of yourself because someone got your desired outcome before you. And to clean up, not all comparisons are bad. I mean, it's good to compare and contrast, see what he did, because you could honestly just, if you look into it enough, you maybe could just see that maybe he just marketed himself differently, better than you, and that's the reason why. It's a lot of nuance. But some people will just completely just shut down, just be like, well, this person got to where I wanted to be before I did, so fuck this. It's not worth it. I'm throwing it all away. No. Let's not do that. Alright? Because, I mean, general, if you're willing to throw away something that you care about, especially just because you see someone else do it better, differently, maybe even got your desired outcome faster than you never wanted it in the first place. And that's just how I feel for a lot of things. And obviously I can't speak for everything. If you want to work if you're working corporate, you have a corporate job, someone else gets a promotion before you. That's a lot different as opposed to just kind of making anything that could be considered artistic in nature. They're very two different worlds, and I'm only just talking about those two. There's 1,001 nuances, such as life. about about everything, but especially creatively or just everything like that. Just kind of pursuing. If you're pursuing something you want to do, you see someone get to your end goal, quote unquote, faster than you, and you lose your courage and motivation immediately. I really don't think that's for you, because you should be able to chase what you want relentlessly, as if there are no barriers, no roadblocks, no one else even in the game with you. It's just you just going for it. The moment that you start to lose that steam to just do it because you want to do it, a conversation kind of needs to be had. An evaluation needs to be done. Just kind of realize that the comparisons aren't doing you any good. If I want to make music, I see this one person in the same genre blow up before me, and I quit music as a result. I just lost. I lost. And it's not lost as in, I herder, I lost the battle, I decided to battle this dude either in my mind, or we actually talked about it and sat there to figure out, I think I'll quote unquote blow up before you. No, I will. Like, you just lose if you just stop and you feel diminished and you slow down your progress because you see someone else speeding up theirs. Like, the comparison shit will forever it will forever do you in. It will forever make you feel numb, which is a good way to put it, because I have one more thing written on the sticky note, even though I really don't want to just like fully rely on this, especially in the future. But I have the words exactly "fuck how you feel" written down, because when I think about comparisons, I also think about criticism. I think they kind of go hand in hand in a sense, because other people will compare you, and in a sense, if someone else compares you, it's criticism. It can be, whether you take it as positive, negative, or constructive, go for it. It doesn't matter in a grand scheme of things. Someone can just say, if they hear a song you make, just be like, "Oh, nice. You have your flow reminds me of 21 Savage." Is that a bad thing? You tell me. Is that a good thing? You tell me. The person who said it, is that a bad or good thing to them? Ask them. And with comparison, yeah, sometimes it is criticism. Sometimes people will just kind of tell you that they don't really like a certain thing, or tell you that you should probably switch a different thing. And take it in. Criticism is good. Criticism is how you grow yourself, and that's through criticism is how you learn what you're missing with a lot of things in life, because people will just tell you what they're looking for and what they want, and that's criticism. So it's good to listen and consider it, ponder it. But at the same time, I mean, if someone wants to just say some stupid shit or just critique you in areas and ways that you don't believe either they should be critiquing you in, or you don't like the style of it, or you don't think they have like the credentials or the rights to do it, or whatever. Hell, you can even just be confident in what you're doing, because what you're doing is so both groundbreaking and never seen before. Tell them to go fuck themselves, to be completely honest. That's exactly what I have written down. Fuck how you feel. Go fuck yourself, basically. Because people will just always work to try to tear people down. And rather, people have a tendency to tear others down. Whether it's to make themselves feel better or whatever, I don't know. But people have a tendency to just kind of hear about an idea and just kind of say, "I don't know, man. I don't really think that should work. You should probably do this instead." Well, that's a pretty bad idea. Who would ever want this? Who would ever buy this? Why would you ever do this? Why would you ever do that? The world is full of some negative shit, and it's up to you to really siphon and dig through everything that you hear. Figure out, does it make me feel good or bad? Does this make me feel better or worse? Is this necessary? Are they saying anything in this I should pay attention to? And as you ask yourself more questions, the answers will start to unfold themselves. But for the most part, a lot of criticism just doesn't matter, especially with random people. If you're not surrounded by friends, if you don't have friends, if you're not surrounded by friends who will just tell you outright if you're doing something wrong, they're not really your friends because they're not really for you. They're just kind of saying whatever. They're choosing the path of least conflict, basically. They're like yes men for you, basically. But being able to just run up to a friend and just say, hey, what's your thoughts on this? And then them just saying, yeah, I don't really fuck with that at all. Here's why. Now you have constructive criticism from someone that you should trust. Someone that isn't looking to just topple your buildings over, like a thief in the night, basically. Just deciding, yeah, fuck you. I'm just going to ruin everything and slap the shit because I just don't want you to have it. Like, no. Friends are the ones who can tell you what's missing. And then they give you the constructive feedback that you were looking for, maybe that you haven't given yourself. And then from there, you can continue to blossom into the beautiful flower that you are. And I truly do mean that. You are a beautiful flower. And it's important to treat yourself as such. Allow yourself to relish in the moments where you did do well, regardless of how quote unquote small or large it is. You want your local spelling bee? That's fucking amazing. And you should be proud of yourself and treat yourself as such and let people know. It's just like, I did this. This is something I'm happy with. This is something that I did. And I should hold that true to myself just as much as when you make your first millionth dollar. Basically, every single accomplishment is an accomplishment. It doesn't matter how other people feel. The only thing that matters is how you feel deep down about what you've done. And I mean truly deep down, isolated deep down. And if that doesn't work, ask yourself a nice question. If you pin your accolade onto somebody else, how would you feel? Because sometimes you have very negative self-perceptions to the point where you tell yourself, even if I did it, I shouldn't have been the one to do it. I did it bad. I did it terrible. I did it slow. Who chose me? But you can pin all those attributes onto someone else and you'll feel like a good person, a better person, to be the one that tells them that they did a good job. So sometimes maybe step out of your skin for a little bit. Tell yourself that someone else did what you did. That way you know how you would feel about it. Like, as a really weird example, and one that might come out as pretty sharp, so excuse me, but hold up. Someone could come to me and say, oh my god, I'm finally finishing, high school. This person, let's see if I can throw out a bunch of numbers and things and pray to God I can put it together. But let's just say this 28-year-old, said, I'm finally finishing high school. Now you can have like 1,001 things to say. In my particular case, if I finished high school at 28, I'd have some questions for myself simply because I was accelerated through high school. I finished at 16 personally. But if my homie said, I'm finishing high school, I finally finished high school, and they're graduating at 27, 28, they got their GED, I'd be on the moon with them. I'd be trying to figure out how can we celebrate, because I think that's amazing that they I think it's amazing that they came back to going to school. They came back, they told themselves they had a goal, they finished it, they did it, and they have the proof for it. And that's all that matters. And that's amazing to me. That's beautiful to me. But at the same time, I feel as if I was in the same shoes, I probably would talk a little bit piss poor about myself because it took, quote unquote, this long. Makes no sense to be able to tell someone else they did well, but I can't tell myself that. And parallels like that can be drawn all throughout, not only can be drawn throughout my life, and I feel like some people can probably agree. It leads back to this greater idea of imposter syndrome, basically, where you just always tell yourself that you're not good enough. Everyone else is good enough, but somehow you're just the one ugly duckling in the group. It's not fair to tell yourself that, and it's not true either. It's not real. It's not real. Your accomplishments are accomplishments, Sure, maybe you took it a little bit slower than others in certain fields, but you still got it done. You still did it. You were still more consistent while doing it. Someone sped through it at half the speed but made greater mistakes. Could be a lot of different things. I got another random oddball of an example here. But someone can sit here and try to tell themselves down because they finished high school at 20. Got their GED at 20. Which one are we more proud of? The person that, went into the workforce and went into school or left school to go into the workforce, came out and then finished school at 20? Or the one that finished school at 16 but has a child? By the way, I don't have a child, in case that's not a self-insert. That's just the first idea that came to mind. But you get the point. This person finished high school 4 years earlier than me, 2 years earlier than, I guess what the average is or what normality is, 1 or 2 years younger. They have a child though. Me personally, I don't really want that. If I knew one person that was, finish high school at the age 16, has a child, and then I have another friend who's 20 with none of those issues, capable of dealing with them when they come up, but decide to go get his GED, I'd be more proud of the one that has a GED. But, you just have to have the consistency. You have to just, That's a really bad example now that I think about it. That's a terrible example. It doesn't make sense. And it's hard to just think about it, especially on top of the head, that it's just like, just don't give up. I don't know why I didn't start there. Get there or start there from the start. It's just like, don't give up. Understand that what you want to see might take time. Sometimes it will. It takes time at times to really see the results that you want to see. But it's those who stick with it, who put their 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours, 3,000 hours, 4,000 hours, 5,000 hours into something. They dealt with the amount of hardships that you will deal with from your first 100 hours to your 5,000 hour. The amount of hardships, the things that you've seen, the connections, everything. You would see so much. You will see so much, experience so much, the more that you decide to not just keep going into one thing more and more and more. And if you do it smart, then you will learn from the moments within those first 5,000 hours where you went wrong, quote unquote. And you recognize that there's better things you can do. And when you see and recognize those better things that you can do, then there's opportunity for growth. And then you grow and you stay consistent as well. And it just keeps going. It's like a giant snowball until you turn into the person that you want to be, or you do the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. It's also important to make sure that you talk to yourself well. Be your best friend. Be your biggest advocate. Be the person that you can lean on in case there's no one else to lean on. Because being alone is not really it. You're social creatures, and no one really just enjoys being stuck in their own head, especially if their head is telling them that they're stupid and that they're worthless and that they can't do anything. Rewind your brain and tell yourself the nice things, semantics included, about how if you don't know something, you just don't know it yet, and that you will move forward from this moment. This feeling too will pass. When you feel bad about yourself and you feel negative, accept the negative emotions without being burdened by them. Don't allow yourself to be stuck under the rubble of just, one thing goes bad and you just tell yourself, oh yeah, well, I am pretty, worthless and pretty shitty and can't do anything right and everyone hates me. Like, no, just, you don't get anywhere with that. Don't tell yourself you don't know how to don't tell yourself you don't know how to do something. Tell yourself you don't know how to do it yet. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good friend yet. Let me learn how to be a better friend for the people around them. Let me learn the things that I don't feel like I know properly to enjoy and thoroughly pursue a career in art. Excuse me. Talk better to yourself. Don't tell yourself that you're worth nothing, because you are a beautiful person with a lot of worth and a lot of potential. And the more that you think about these type of things, the more that you realize that you do have so much opportunity to grow and to change and to love yourself and to do more and to do better. And overall, just be the person that you want to be, the person that you want to see. But you can't be what you want to be the more you tell yourself that you will never be. You cannot envision yourself as a superhero while constantly belittling and telling yourself that you'll be a villain. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You can't tell yourself one thing and be the other. All right. You need the support of yourself, the support of your own mental. That way you can run forward and be. Not only just be, but be who you want to be. Be the things you want to be. Be the change you want to see. Change the things you want to change. And I don't think there's an end. Just, you will forever be what you tell yourself you want to be. Or you'll forever be what you tell yourself you're going to be. So if you sit here and tell yourself that you'll be a failure by the time you're 25, I got some terrible news for you. If you can't change that, you'll be a terrible person by the age of 25. All right. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to sit here and I believe I can do better, start to make action plans and figure out what's really missing from my life, or what do I need to change to really be who I want to be, because I really want this and I feel good about this. And every single time I work out, then I feel it and I feel good. And every single time I tell myself that I can be bigger, I can be better, I can be stronger, then I will be. And every single time I decide to not quit and not fall to my knees, this mountain is mine to climb, and therefore I will. Every single time you decide to not realize someone is above you, every single time you see someone above you on the mountain that you're climbing and realize that you want to be up there with them, not angry about the fact that they got there first. Every single time you tell yourself those type of things, the stronger you get, the more resilient you get, the more you realize that it's not a race. It's not a competition. Not every single person is your enemy. And the one person you really should not make your enemy is yourself. Because yourself, and the way you treat yourself, the way you talk to yourself, is your greatest ally. And the more that you can strengthen the bond that you have with yourself in every single aspect, from the way that you talk to yourself, to the way that you interact with yourself, to the way that you perceive the actions and the accolades that others have and receive as well, the better you'll be for it. Because you already do well. And if you have these type of thoughts, you probably want to do even more and do even better. And you can. And I think with time and focused thinking, you will. Just understand what you want to see. Stay relentless. Don't worry about what other people do. And tell yourself that if it doesn't happen perfectly the first time, it's not the last time. You are not doomed to be the person that you are already. You are not bound by the mistakes you have made. You do have the capacity to change. So please, for the love of God, if there's anything I want you to stop doing, stop downplaying your own worth.